All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Competence Podcast. We're talking NFL football, and it's now the NFC side of the playoff bracket. It's going to be a wild one. It's going to be a fun one. But the man who's going to have a wild and fun weekend, well, that's pretty much every weekend for him. My co-host, Fresh. How you doing, buddy?
Haps, I'm doing great. The NFC has some historic teams that are all actually we have one of the greatest matchups in Packers Cowboys, but a lot of great teams in this playoff field. The Niners, Eagles have been kind of a dumpster fire, but the Cowboys are loaded. Rams, Lions are a great story. A lot of fun there in the NFC, and I think we're going to see some great matchups this weekend.
All right, Fresh. Well, let's go to our first NFC game of the weekend. It's going to happen on Fox at 4:30 on Sunday. The Green Bay Packers are traveling down to Dallas, Texas to face the Cowboys. Right now, at time of record, Dallas is a 7-point favorite. Over-under is set at 50.5. I was kind of shocked at the over-under. I thought that was a little bit on the higher side than I thought, especially with the game being in Dallas on this one. But, Fresh, what you got going on for Packers versus Cowboys?
Well, full disclosure, everyone, I'm a diehard Packer fan. Born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a shareholder. I own a piece of stock, so I'm going to be a little biased in my evaluation. But these are two of the most historic franchises in professional sports, not just the NFL. Obviously, this is the ninth time they met in the playoffs, which is the most times, tied for the most in playoff history in the NFL, with teams meeting each other in the playoffs. They split 4-4 the previous two. Packers won the first two, and that results in them going to the first two Super Bowls. And they've won the most recent two, either Dez not catching the ball or Aaron Rodgers hitting Jared Cook and then Mason Crosby banging home a winning field goal. Cowboys had their run in the 90s, but these two teams have been playing for titles and winning trophies and divisions and being in the spotlight for decades, since the inception of the NFL. Green Bay has won 9 of the last 10 versus the Cowboys. They have not lost in AT&T Stadium, including the Super Bowl when they played the Steelers. There's a lot of those numbers that people look at like, oh my God, all these records and streaks and whatever. None of that's really going to apply when it comes to Sunday afternoon in Arlington and AT&T Stadium. This is a matchup of a very young Packer football team, the youngest in the NFL to make a playoff. If you haven't heard that by now, you've been under a rock. Jordan Love, obviously, a lot of skepticism in him taking over the job. Was he going to be the quarterback? How's he going to fit? Early in the year, I was at the Raiders game in Vegas when he threw 3 picks. There was a lot of miscommunication on the offense starting to grow, guys getting comfortable with each other. But as the season's progressed, this offense has kind of found their footing. The young guys getting on the same page. There's still going to be some mistakes, but they have made plays better. They've kind of grown up together. They're called the Baby Packers for a reason. And that team has sort of found themselves where they have nothing to lose. They're playing for each other. They're playing loose and playing carefree. Will that continue in this football game? Or will they see it's the playoffs and maybe get a little tighter, or think they have to, perform a little and change their level and maybe overthink it a little bit? They're coming in with house money. They have no pressure on them at all. I think that helps them if they keep that mentality. If we just play free, do our thing, there's no pressure on us. No one expects the Packers to go to the Super Bowl, much less win this weekend. Go out there and just play a little loose. The defense has actually been the problem up until this point in the season. I thought coming in, the defense would be the strength of the football team, and they would let this young offense, grow and get accustomed to each other and sort of figure it out. The defense has had some holes, and the offense has actually picked it up down the stretch to keep them in the ball games and get them to where they've been. If the Packers are going to win this football game, they have to have the exact same script as when they went on Thanksgiving to Detroit and won. You come out early, you take a deep shot, you play aggressive offensively, you score touchdowns, you don't score field goals, and then defensively, you force turnovers early in the football game, shorten the field, and you build a big lead, and you really put the shock into the opponent and make them sort of have to reset themselves and fight back. The last time the Packers played in AT&T Stadium was in 2019. The Packers jumped out to an early lead and sort of fended off the Cowboys. Same thing with the last time they played there in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers jumped out to a 21-3 lead. Cowboys battled back, and then the Packers ended up winning on a miraculous drive. When in a situation like this, where you have the underdog, mentality, you've got to be able to strike first, play aggressive defense, and get turnovers, because you can't play conservative and you can't play, uptight. You will get steamrolled if that does happen. And you got to give a lot of credit to the Packers coaching staff sort of making tweaks and the players adjusting themselves. On the other side, the Cowboys are a fantastic football team. There's no way to hide it. This team has been dominant all year. They've been coming. Mike McCarthy and the entire coaching staff, especially Dan Quinn, have really got them organized and playing in the right way. But now it's the playoffs. And the one thing that the Cowboys have not done in almost 30 years is make it to the NFC Championship game and actually get to a Super Bowl after that, but, even more. The pressure's on McCarthy and this entire staff to get there. The last time they played an NFC title game was January '96 versus the Packers. That's actually the last time they beat the Packers in the playoffs. This team has to get there. So if you lose to the Packers, McCarthy's going to be fired on Monday. That's a given. I don't think he'll never survive that. The pressure's on them. They have to find ways to buckle down and survive and maintain. We have to take care of business and focus and drive home and just get the win. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, whatever. They just have to beat the Packers to get on to the next weekend. And that comes with Dak Prescott playing within the offense, them running the football through Pollard, which they haven't really done very well all year consistently, and getting CeeDee Lamb obviously involved at a consistent basis. He's been dominant all year. If he keeps that going to the playoffs, it's going to be very hard to stop. If they get player, in this football game, Jair Alexander, if he's going to play or not, who knows with his ankle. If the Packers cover up CeeDee Lamb, who else do you go to? I don't think Jair's going to shut him down. He's going to get his own. But who do you go to outside of CeeDee that helps you out? Is it Ferguson at tight end? Is it Brandon Cooks? Where does this Cowboy offense evolve? Because if you start playing down the road, you've got to start working guys in now to get them comfortable. They can't play uptight if you're the Cowboys. You've got to come out there and take care of business. Do not just sort of walk through the daisies against the Packers, because if you do, you might find yourself in a battle, and it might end up the way you want it. They have to be themselves. That defense is dominant. Micah Parsons and that entire secondary, Bland obviously has the pick sixes. Stephon Gilmore's there. This team is loaded. They are Super Bowl caliber, but they cannot overlook the Packers on Sunday afternoon. It's a battle of two historic franchises. Mike McCarthy obviously hasn't beat the Packers since he left. They lost last year. So you kind of see, is he going to play a little uptight, coach a little uptight? I think the Cowboys win this football game. It'll be a little closer than – I think they win by like 4 or 5. They won't cover the spread. The Packers will play them tight. This will be a big learning opportunity for the Packers going into the future of Jordan Love and that entire team. They have to come out here and battle. They will play uptight. They'll play fun. They'll play loose. They will not play uptight. And they will get after the Cowboys, give them a ball game, but Dallas will win, and they will advance. It'll be probably closer than everyone sort of thinks, but it'll be a victory nonetheless, and the Cowboys will move on in the playoffs.
So, Fresh, when I was breaking down this game here, I went and I looked at two of the last two marquee wins that Green Bay has had over about the last month. So I started at the beginning of December, and they beat Kansas City in Lambeau, and then they also went into Minnesota and beat Minnesota. Two marquee wins. And both of those games, Green Bay got off to a really quick start and put up some points early in the first half. And that's what's going to happen in this football game. If Green Bay is sitting only with 3, 7, 10 points around halftime, I think that it could be a very, very long afternoon. This Dallas team is a different team at home than they are on the road. They're 8-0 in Dallas. They're 4-5 when they get on the road. So there definitely is a little bit of difference there. It's that home field advantage that I think the Cowboys have. It's that defense that's going to play a little more tougher. It's interesting because this game is in Arlington. The weather's not going to be a factor like it would be if the game was in Green Bay. If this game was on the road, I honestly think that Green Bay would have a huge advantage in this football game, and I really would think that Dallas would struggle. I think when you start getting into the weather elements and you start having the speed factor that Dallas kind of has in their team, you kind of, I don't want to say negate it, but minimize it to the effect that they're going to have. Prescott's been fantastic. He's a divisive quarterback amongst Cowboy fans there. You got people who grew up with Troy Aikman, and then you get Tony Romo, and now you got Prescott. He's had a phenomenal year, throwing only 9 interceptions. That's one of the big stats that I kept hearing all throughout the year, that his goal was to throw less than 10 interceptions on the year, completing almost 70% of his passes in the NFL. That's just fantastic. Like, it's not a common thing that we see. But, I got to give a lot of credit to the kid. Jordan Love has been way better than I ever thought he would be. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how these Packer wide receivers, these young Packer wide receivers, match up well against that Dallas secondary, and to see if that offensive line can stop like a Micah Parsons pass rush in this game. Love you would think would have taken more sacks because of kind of how he was. I don't have the quarterback hit piece in front of me right now. I just have the general statistics on there. But I think if he kind of prevents himself getting taken down, and Green Bay doesn't get behind the sticks in this game, they got an opportunity. They got to put points on the board. It's got to be touchdowns. It can't be field goals. As long as Green Bay can keep up with that Dallas offense, they got a shot. I just think at the end of the day, with Dallas being at home and with this offense, it's a different team when they're playing in Arlington. I'm going with the Cowboys in this one. I'm actually going with the Cowboys, and I'll take the points as well, that 7-point spread, and I'm also going to take the over in this game.
Well, all right, there's 3 Packer players, and I'll give you 3 Cowboys you have to keep your eyes on. Packers, Aaron Jones, he has to be successful. He's the reason why the team has won 3 straight. Outside of that, Dontavian Wicks, the other receiver, really coming up and showing himself lately. And then Rashawn Gary, the pass rusher for the Packers. If he's active and makes a big game and puts Prescott on his back a few times, that's a big difference maker. The other side, Tony Pollard's got to have a ball game. Brandon Cooks has got to be involved and give them the number 2 receiver. And can Bland get back to what he was doing early in the year with some pick sixes, be that explosive corner? If he's having some pick sixes, this game is a blowout, and the Cowboys are running off to the divisional round.
Absolutely. All right, Fresh, let's go to the second NFC game. This is at night on Sunday night on NBC. Please tell me that they got the Carrie Underwood song for this game. They better.
They probably will.
They better. It's one of the best part of NFL football. Haps is
the song or the music video? The song or the video?
All of the above.
All the above. Okay. That's a big win.
The music video, and Carrie Underwood. Big fan of her. So taking a look, Los Angeles Rams are going to Detroit and facing the Lions here. At time of record, the spread is 3 points for Detroit. Over under set at 51.5. Fresh, I've talked to you before about this. I'm a firm believer of the Treaty of Lake Erie. I pull for teams, as long as they're not playing my Browns. I pull for the Lions. I pull for the Buffalo Bills, as long as they're not matched up against Cleveland. I'm going for I'll give you my pick right now. Lions win, Lions cover. I think that this Lions team, what they've become with kind of the resurrection of Jared Goff's career, when he got traded for Matt Stafford, and the storyline that we have in this game with Goff versus Stafford, I've just been so impressed with what he's done with his career here, because everyone was like, well, in a year or two, he's going over to Detroit to die. His career is over. He's going to be a clipboard holder. He's going to be, the end of his career. And then you take a look at a guy like David Montgomery, what he was able to do coming over from Chicago. It's like the island of misfit toys that have been cast away from these other programs because you're like, oh, right, you're not good enough for us as well. I questioned the Gibbs pick in the draft this past year, and the kid balled out. I give him credit.
Questions on the draft. We did.
I questioned that draft pick. I'll be the first one. Hey, Detroit fans, I was wrong. I'll call myself out on that one. But man, this is a fun Lions team. They got Sam Laporta. That was a huge pickup for them. I'm excited for them, but let me get your take there, Fresh. What you got for Lions versus Rams?
First, they haven't won a playoff game since 1992. Let that sink in. Like the vibe in that building, the vibe in that dome in Detroit. Home playoff game, I think it was 94. Last one was in 92. Like you're just seeing some anxiety that's built up. And actually, if things are kind of nitty or it's not a blowout for the Lions and they're maybe struggling or down late in that ball game, how nervous are those fans going to be? You've waited for years and years and years. You don't want it to be a one and done kind of situation. So that's where I think they're kind of hoping for a quick, fast start from Jared Goff, from that entire Lions team. Can they get after it and not just sort of have to struggle to the end and sort of survive a ball game? I think this is, from a Rams perspective, start off with, Sean McVay has shown that he is a hell of a coach. This roster, after last year and all the high price guys they had to let go after the Super Bowl run, sort of gutting the entire team except for Stafford and maybe Aaron Donald, but not many really familiar faces left. Drafts, I think they have 18, 20 picks in the draft, and obviously I'm exaggerating. Tons of undrafted guys making very, very low amounts, very minimal amounts, coaching them up. And here they are in a very tough division, and now they're making the playoffs, and they've been hot. Kyren Williams running hard. Puka's actually a great pick, and then Cooper Kupp being healthy. Stafford he was banged up early, banged up all of last year. Looks a lot healthier this year down the stretch. That offensive line sort of holding together. They are seeing some improvement on defense. A bunch of no names who you couldn't pull out of a police lineup. But these guys are just out there, and maybe that's not the right terminology. I'm just sort of like, you couldn't pull them out of a line. You could put 11 guys up there outside of Aaron Donald. You couldn't name the other guys on the starters on the Rams defense. But those guys have collectively grouped up, studied up, and played effective football and gotten off the field, forced turnovers, gotten after the quarterback, gotten sacks. And it's not the individual star mentality. Kobe Turner got a lot of sacks because he's been playing next to Donald. But outside of that, these guys are just playing good team, organized football and being well coached up. Coming in with a lot of momentum, coming into this football game where nobody expects you to win. It's supposed to be a party for the Lions. They're going to celebrate. Goff's going to get revenge on McVay. It sort of gives you an edge where you have like the Packers we mentioned earlier, you have nothing to lose. You come in here, if you lose, who cares? If you win, you shock everybody. And that makes you a dangerous football team when you're well coached and you have some players who can make things happen. Stafford coming back to Detroit, the fans, if they boo him, shame on you, because he gave everything to Detroit. When that team was terrible, he was out there putting his entire body on the line, playing hurt when he shouldn't have had to. So if you boo him at all, shame on you. And I would take your tickets and tell you to leave the stadium. There's fandom, and then there's understanding goats in your own franchise. And when Detroit didn't have much, Stafford and Calvin Johnson and after Barry Sanders, it was really Stafford and Calvin Johnson held that entire team together for a long time. So give him his respect, give him his love. But when the game starts, obviously, he's now an opponent. Jared Goff, he's the other quarterback that Sean McVay took to a Super Bowl. He got the one shunned, like you just mentioned. How much nerves is he going to have under him now? Where you look over, you see your ex across the way, and you're like, all right, I got to show off. You got to try to make a scene. Is he going to start throwing the ball a little bit too much, maybe play a little too over the top? He has been turnover prone this season. Does that happen? Does he get a little too much in himself and not play within the offense? You have two good running backs. If Sam Laporta is healthy, you have your resource there. Amon St. Brown is a fantastic receiver. You have the weapons. You got to play with it yourself. Do not let the moment get too big for you, Jared Goff. If you start doing that, it's going to be a repeat of what was on Thanksgiving Day. Turnovers, and before you know it, you can't keep up. The Lions, they struggle with the Bears all year. They have not played consistent good football. They've been up and down, up and down. What will be the edge? What team will we see from Detroit on Sunday night? Will we see the team that should have beaten the Dallas Cowboys? Will we see the team that beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Or we see the team that lost to the Packers and struggled and lost one of the games to the Bears? What kind of team are we going to get? That all falls on Dan Campbell. You can give all the gruff, fired up speeches you want, but where's the smart coaching that goes into the game? Obviously, there were some fourth down decisions in the Thanksgiving game against the Packers that weren't exactly the most logical. There's been some other times where you try to be bold and a little aggressive, but some of it's a little too much. How does he coach this ball game? This is his first playoff game as a head coach. Where's his mind at? It's a lot of things that play in this ball game. A lot of very two talented football teams. But I just think I'm going to go with coaching when it comes down to it. I'm taking Sean McVay, his experience. They have weapons on offense. They have talent on defense. They're going to go into Detroit, and ththey're going to pull off the upset. The Rams are going to beat the Lions because of coaching and coaching alone when the two teams are about even after that.
Yeah, Fresh. I'm going with the Detroit in this just because I think that they're going to be fired up. The two games that they've lost at home, they're 6-2 in Detroit, and their losses were an overtime loss where they gave up 24 second half points to the Seattle Seahawks. They wind up losing that game in overtime there, and then the Thanksgiving Day game that to me that's kind of an outlier, very difficult game to play. That Thanksgiving matchup where you play a game on Sunday and then you got to get ready to go that very first kickoff real early on Thanksgiving. That's difficult for me to do. It's not like a Thursday night game where you do get all of Thursday to get ready for an evening game. So I kind of take that win with a grain of salt. Like when I'm starting to criticize the Lions, like, hey, at the end of the day, it's a game. Whoever wins it, wins it. But I really think that, yes, there's going to be pressure on Detroit, but I think that they're playing loose enough, and I think Dan Campbell is going to have these guys like everyone else is going to predict us to win. It's going to be kind of like we're going to be predicted to be the ones that kind of screw up this weekend. So you know what? Let's go give them, let's waste all the sport writer time, to quote Lou Brown again. So I don't know, man. I think that the Rams definitely have a clear path to victory in this game. I think I would say it's probably I feel like a 55-45 type of game, but I'm taking the Lions here I know I get 3 points in it. I actually would take the Lions and that 3 right there.
The Lions defense has been kind of leaky all year. I want to see what Aaron Glenn, that defensive staff, and that defensive, personnel groups have for Sean McVay. There's talks of Aaron Glenn getting interviews. Same thing with the offensive coordinator Johnson. Are both those guys distracted? Even though the interviews haven't started, but are they distracted? Are they focused? How do they respond? Do they have something special? This game is a lot more about the coaching, in my opinion, than it is the players. Because the players' rosters, they're very similar with talent-wise. It's coaching and how those guys are deployed and what game plans they really run out there on Sunday night.
Right. All right, Fresh. The weird thing for Wild Card Weekend is we get another Monday Night Football game on Wild Card Weekend. I still don't understand why we have this, but it's the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champs here. Oh, wait, no, Kansas City won. NFC champion. That's right. Kansas City being last year.
Unless you're saying that the penalty shouldn't have been thrown there in that Super Bowl, but we digress. We can move on from that.
That's different questions. So the Philadelphia Eagles, they're traveling. They're going on the road to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They won the NFC South, which was okay. And Philadelphia is a 3-point road favorite in this game at time of record. Over under is set at 43.5. To me, I'm screaming hammer the over in this game. But you know what? I don't know. Fresh, I'll turn it over to you. Eagles, Buccaneers.
Wow. The Bucs won a terrible division, but they've actually played some inspired football all year. The Eagles have been an epic dumpster fire. The video, the meme of the 2 trash cans in a rainstorm and they're sliding down the road. That's literally been the Eagles the past 6 or 7 games. You're hearing rumors of Sirianni. If he loses this game, he's getting fired. There's turmoil in the locker room. Players are saying that they trust their coach, but when players are saying they trust their coach, that means their coach is an idiot. And they're basically saying the exact opposite and not want to throw them under the bus directly. Defense has been injured and playing lackadaisical. You got outside of Brown in his mouth, you got him get hurt. You have Devonta Smith now getting hurt. Jalen Hurts is now hurt with his finger, and if you see that picture from last week, it's all disgusting and nasty. He's not running the ball enough outside of the love shove or whatever the heck they want to call it, the brotherly shove or tush push or whatever the terminology is. This team is just extremely dysfunctional. They haven't run the ball really successfully with their running, DeAndre Swift, especially the last couple of weeks. They don't have a running game from even him or Hurts. They're not as explosive in the passing game anymore. Defensively, not getting off the field, not forcing turnovers. It's just they haven't done anything right except for arrive and get off the bus and walk in the locker room before the football game. Is this kind of a galvanizing moment for the Eagles? Being Philly strong, their whole special breed of people. Does that sort of rally them? All right, you know what? We've been so bad. Can we get any worse? Can things go even more wrong for us right now? They have the talent on paper to win. On paper, they should win. Can they put it all together? They're on their second defensive coordinator. The second defensive coordinator was moved down from an advisory role to the field. Patricia came back in, and Desai gets sent back upstairs. So he's still technically on staff, which makes it awkward there. There's just a lot of dysfunction in this Philadelphia Eagles football team right now, and we have really no idea what to predict and what you're going to get on Monday night. On the other side, the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, the survivor. Here he is, fourth, fifth team, going to the playoffs again. Has a swagger about him, gritty. Rashad White running the ball really, really well for the Bucs. Mike Evans going to hit free agency and make a ton of money because he's had a heck of a season. Chris Godwin looking a little healthy. That defense they're making plays. They're not the greatest football team in the world, folks. They beat Carolina 9-0 in the last week of the season to win the division. But they have talent and they have a home game, and anything can happen. These 2 teams played on Monday night back in September. It was a ball game through the first 2.5 quarters, and then eventually the Eagles took over when they were fully healthy at the beginning of the year. This is fast forward, 4 months now? Different story. Same Buccaneers football team, a dysfunctional Eagles football team. If the Buccaneers could jump them early and really put pressure on that defense, which is really struggling, they have a chance because they actually have a running game. If they can get a lead early, they can run the ball, kill the clock, and get off the field. Jalen Hurts is looking through a guy right now who you got a lot of money last in the offseason. You got paid a bunch. Where's your mind at? You're trying to shoulder it all and prove yourself that you're worthy of the contract and not playing within the offense. If you watch the all 22 in some games, he's missing wide open receivers. He's trying to force it himself or immediately leaving the pocket and not letting the pass route develop, where if he waited one more second and had time, the pass is there for a bigger gain. Is he seeing too many things in the field? Is he overthinking? Something isn't right now for Jalen Hurts. And I kind of feel it goes back to the contract that he got. He's trying to live up to it and do a little bit more to prove himself he's worthy for it. And when the team starts struggling, you start maybe trying to hold on a little too much. I brought this, thing up before somebody else. You like a girl and you want to get in the relationship, but you start holding on too tight, making sure it won't end, and that's when it ends, instead of just playing chill and playing loose. I think the Eagles are holding on too tight right now in all facets of the football game, instead of doing what they have to do and just playing loose and playing easy. They have the talent. They have the veteran offensive line. They have the playmakers all spots. Can they be healthy enough on Monday night? Can they play focus with each other and play as a team? I have a lot of doubts. I really, really do. I keep saying I want to pick the Buccaneers. I think they have the talent and being at home. And you know what? I'm going to take Tampa. I just don't trust Philly right now. Tampa will win by a point or two. It'll be very close, maybe a late second field goal. But I just think there's too much dysfunction right now in Philly to get a full effort out of them. On top of that, not enough players being fully healthy. This is going to be a bad day for Philly. And I think Tampa finds a way to get a win and advance the divisional round. And if Philly wins, it's going to be on a short week, and I don't like the chances going forward. And they'll win barely, but I think the Buccaneers are the winners in this football game, and they take it home.
Fresh, I watched a lot of Baker Mayfield during his time in Cleveland, and he has some tendencies. There's one thing that the Eagles do really, really well, and they do a great job of getting after the quarterback. Between Reddick, Sweat, Cox, Carter, all of them over there with the Eagles, they have a great pass rush that really can create some problems, and especially in the middle. Baker Mayfield's biggest struggle, and this is with most quarterbacks, but especially what I observed with Baker, is when you get pressure, especially up the A-gap on him, and get that pressure right in his face, he then starts to hurry his throws. He starts to kind of rush what he's going to do and try to force the football into tight windows. And then he winds up having a tendency to be prone to interceptions. When he's not doing that, when he is able to get a decent protection, he's accurate as one. That's one of the greatest qualities that he has. He has this great level of accuracy that he's able to pick apart the defenses. That's what's going to come down to in this football game. If Philadelphia is able to make Baker uncomfortable in the pocket, then I would see Philly maybe jumping out in this game, but I don't think that's going to happen. I really think that what they've done, what they've put together in Tampa, with what they have on their offensive line, I know he's taken 40 sacks on the year, but I think that there's a way to scheme around this and be able to get the ball to Mike Evans, be able to get it to Godwin, and then kind of lean a little bit on White and Edmonds a little bit to kind of really force the issue here. This is going to be a game that takes a long time to play out. It's going to be a late game because both these teams pass the ball quite a bit. I don't think they're going to stay on the ground too much in this football game. I'm interested, man. I've seen the same thing because I spent a long time watching the Eagles over the first half of the season. And I was really impressed. I was like, man, I would say maybe half of the season, I thought, who was going to be the team to beat the Eagles this year? And then all of a sudden, it just started to seem like something was going wrong. I don't know what it was. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not there. I don't know any of the stories that are going on. But again, you take a look at a guy like Dallas Goedert, who went down, and the difference of losing a sure-handed tight end like that. I know that in some games he's not getting the same level of targets as Brown or Smith in those football games. But, man, when Philadelphia needed him the most, they were able to rely on him. So, I don't know. Is someone going to step up for Philadelphia? Is Brown going to – I know he's listed as questionable right now when we're recording this. We still have a few days. questionable in a playoff game. I'd hope he'd play in it. But again, don't know how severe that injury is. I don't know, Fresh. I'm with you. Something just doesn't feel right. And every year when we get to the playoffs, there's always that one team that just all of a sudden they're out in the first round. And it's dog fart in church. And I feel like the Eagles are due for the dog fart in church. They've had a great run here. I meant to say defending NFC champions here instead of Super Bowl champions there. But I think that this is going to be their exit. I don't think they should fire their coach on this one. If they do, I think they got some talent there, and I give them enough, let them run it back-to-back years in the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl. Man, come on. If you constantly fire a coach, you're making things worse for you. But I like Tampa, and I like Baker Mayfield in this game. I think he's going to have a good game, and I think he's good. When the lights are the brightest, Baker's got that other gear in him that occasionally comes out from time to time. So give me Tampa Bay in the points. And for some reason, when I'm looking at 43.5, I don't know why that's so tempting to me. Like, take the over. It's screaming the over to me.
I think the only thing that cares about I think it's why it's so low is with Brown being dinged up, with Devonta Smith, being dinged up, with Hurts' hand being dinged up. I think they're looking at that offense is going to be playing with arm, maybe a half an arm behind their back because they're not 100%. And nobody at the end of the year for anybody is 100%, but that just adds more pain to that offense where your three most explosive weapons down the field are sort of limited. And now you really got to rely on DeAndre Swift. So you're back to your point about rushing attacks. DeAndre Swift or Rashad White, whichever one of those has the game, that team's going to win. You've got to run the ball here because they're going to be the backbones of the offense.
Right. I don't know. I don't completely trust the Tampa defense to completely shut down the Philadelphia offense here. I think they're going to, like I said, I still think Tampa's going to win. I got like a 27-21 game. So that's why I'm feeling closer to like 48. I felt was a good number in my head, but that's just what I'm thinking.
Like a 23-20, 23-17, I think it's going to be. They're going to run the ball and play a little more slow down and just try to survive and get through.
Yeah, we'll see what we go on for this. All right, folks, you've listened to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. I want to say a special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Make sure you're visiting spinnablesports.com. Yep, that is spinnablesports.com. Because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of spinnablesports.com. If you made it this far, guys, what are you doing? Make sure you hit that subscribe button up there. Hit the notification bell. Get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We're going to cover all of the NFL playoffs this year. We're going to be doing all the way up until Super Bowl. And then we're going to start working on March Madness and the NFL Draft. Two of our biggest episodes of the year coming up down the road, not too far away. So don't miss any of our action. And follow us on social media. Interact with us. Engage with us. Tell us that we don't know what we're talking about and make fun of me for saying that the Philadelphia Eagles were Super Bowl champions last year.
Folks, spread the word. Engage with us. We want to hear how smart we're dumb we are. I know it's real snowy across most of the country right now, so put this podcast on. Watch it on YouTube. Enjoy it. Stay warm. Enjoy a lot of great, amazing playoff football this weekend. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.